Oh, what's up guys, Jake with DNT. Welcome to another special video. Today we're doing another thermal review. Today we're looking at the Winchester. Did you know that Winchester actually makes thermal optics? I didn't know until today. Today we're looking at the Winchester THSX 3A4. This is a thermal optic that they've come out with that, well, as you can imagine by name, uses a 384 sensor. Today we're going to go over all the specs and features of this particular thermal optic. Also do a comparison of the DNT Hydra HS325. This also has supposedly a 384 sensor in it. And we're going to actually give you my thoughts and impressions of this particular optic, how it stacks up to this one, and also if I think it's worth your time, but more importantly, your hard-earned money. So, with all that being said, let's see how she does. Now, for those of you that are kind of new to the channel, this might be your first time watching one of my videos. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I'm not like a big thermal know-it-all. I've only done 3 reviews now, this being the 3rd one of a thermal optic. In fact, before I ever started doing YouTube, I had no experience with using a thermal optic. I'm not really into hunting or anything like that either. So if you're looking for hunting footage on this video, I'm sorry. I just don't like to kill animals. I know it's weird. I have had a chance to try a couple other thermals out, such as the AGM Rattler, as well as the DNT Hydra. They both use a 384 sensor like this one. I feel like I'm starting to finally get the differences. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to see a little bit of a comparison, slight differences maybe in contrast or sharpness and things like that, that I think are probably going to be important to you if you're looking to get one of these. So just full disclosure there, obviously they sent this out to me for review. I've only got sample size of 1, so yours could be different for better or worse. And also I may say something slightly wrong because I'm not exactly the most experienced again with thermals. Now, with all that being said, I'll also go and tell you that I'm not the biggest, most experienced person when it comes to specs of different things to look at for thermals. So I'm just going to put all the specs for this particular thermal, as well as a DNT HS325 that I've got here, for you to kind of see a quick little breakdown comparison of all the different specs and features that each of these have, as far as the sensor quality and the battery life, all that good stuff. One thing to point out that I can tell you is that the Winchester one here actually uses 2 18650 batteries, which is like literally 10 hours, and that's more than double of what the DNT Hydra HS325 gets with a single 18650, around 4.5 hours or so. So that is one thing to take note of. Also the price. This one is MSRP of $19.99. Yes, just under $2,000. However, sometimes you can find it around $16.50 if you look around at the right place. The DNT Hydra is actually MSRP at $1,600, but you can find it around $1,200 if you look hard enough. Slight difference in price, slight difference probably in quality as well. I'll show you some side-by-side comparison footage here in just a moment. Now guys, if you notice in this picture here, they actually don't look exactly the same. At least they don't appear to be the exact same quality. That's going to be partially due to the fact that while I had them both at the same distance away from me, turns out that the DNT has a base magnification of 2x, whereas the base magnification of the Winchester without any digital zoom is going to be like 2.5 or 1.5. It was something a little bit off. So I left the digital magnification on the Winchester at 1, as you see down below, and I had to crank up my DNT to about 3x on the optic, digitally of course, in order to kind of roughly get the same size of each image. And I also sort of adjusted the brightness in each of the thermals as well, and the contrast to match what appeared to be about the same to eyesight. Now obviously on camera here, it looks a lot different. One on the left looks a lot fuzzier, and the one on the right looks a little bit more contrasted, a little bit sharper, but also a little bit more pixely too. Part of that could be the DNT optics AI thing they've got going on inside there. Part of it's just probably the settings, but I did the best I could. So hopefully this kind of makes sense. You'll see some other footage here in a moment that actually shows me aiming both thermal optics at their base zoom magnification at some cars and vehicles driving down a highway way far down below. Hopefully that looks a little better for you. It may not, but again guys, I did the best I could, so just bear with me. This was my attempt to do a good, solid, and understandable comparison. Now, going into the menu here, I'm going to actually go into the menu here and show you what I'm looking at as well. So we've got in the menu here several different options for image adjustment. press if you want to select, and then you hold if you want to back out. One cool thing about this particular thermal is it's got a bunch of different settings for depending on what kind of environment you're actually, I guess, hunting or shooting or whatever in. No judgment. You've got forest, you've got detect, which is actually going to be more like a highlight mode so that it'll pick up immediately on warm bodies a lot faster and brighten them up more and darken everything else. You've got general, which is going to be more just like a basic, a typical thermal profile. You've got indoors. This was kind of cool. It's actually got an indoor profile, so it should help you in those more intimate exchanges. And you've got what is one of my favorite features, edge. So what this does is it essentially creates like an outline of what you're looking at. Now, it's similar to how Hollow Sun has their little thermal red dot thing that does an outline mode, as well as like Steiner has like a thermal that does this as well. But it's the first time I've seen, at least in the 3 thermals I've reviewed, that has this built in right out of the box into your thermal scope. Of course, if I look at this dog here, so the thing about this mode is it's not going to like actually like fill in, like make something opaque. It's just going to outline everything. So if you're looking at a really hot object, it's not going to like make it outline more, if that makes sense. It's just going to give you, again, like an outline mode of everything you're looking at. Now you've also got this mode called Sky, which I imagine if you're looking up at the sky, it'll probably help you with that. You've got, again, my favorite, because I live in the wilderness and I shoot in the wilderness, forest. Helps differentiate the leaves and the foliage. So for example, if you look at normal here, it's kind of like those dark spots in the forest. It's kind of hard to make out anything. Forest mode kind of brightens it up and kind of clarifies it a little bit better. So that's kind of been the mode I've stuck with. Now, just like a lot of thermals, you got a lot of different options here. You've got white hot, you've got iron. Let me go back the other way. You've got white hot, you've got black hot, you've got red hot. Okay, see how it does on the road there and stuff. You've got jade. Jade is neat. Jade looks actually kind of pretty, honestly. I guess you can hunt stuff and make it look pretty too. And then you've got iron, which again gives you more of a blend of purples and reds and oranges and stuff, instead of just being like red or black, like the red hot was. And then of course back to white hot. So you've got like a bunch of different buttons here, right? I'm gonna make this a little bit harder for y'all to see, but this first button up here, it's your zoom button. You tap it and it'll actually go to a few different set zoom levels: 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x, 7x, and all the way to 8x. You can press and hold it to go in increments of like 0.10 or tenths of zoom if you want something more specific. Okay. I personally think it's really pixelated at 8, so we're going to leave it at 1 for now. On this left button here, my left, your right, on the left button here, you can actually get the picture-in-picture. So pressing it will turn it on and off. And if you press and hold it, it'll actually give you your 0 for your reticle. So if you need to adjust your 0 on the fly, you can easily do so as needed. Of course, when you're done with adjusting that 0, you press this up here, and it'll actually ask you to hold that M button to make it go back to where you've made your 0 set for your reticle and you're good to go. On the right button here, I'm not going to press it, but if you press it, just tap it, it'll actually take a picture. And if you press and hold it, it'll actually start or stop the recording. And since I'm actually recording one right now, I don't want to press that, but that's where you take pictures and videos. Back here is probably one of the most important buttons, and that's going to be adjusting 2 different things. Where one is going to be, if you press it, it'll change what color palette you're actually going to end up using. So it'll cycle through all the different color palettes that we've covered. And then if you press and hold it, it'll change the actual profile. So we talked about like how I like to use forest, and you'll see the symbol change to the bottom left. This is sky. That's the outline mode. There's like the indoor mode. I think that's just the default one that we talked about. I could be getting these symbols mixed up. This one could be the sky. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. But that's the forest one that I know I like because it's got the happy little tree down there. If you press that middle button there, that'll bring up your menu. Press and hold to make it go away. If you press and hold while it's already gone, nothing really happens. So again, just like a lot of your other thermal objects out there, all the buttons have a dual function of pressing or holding, and they'll each do something different. Now, of course, you've got your front little sensor up here, and you've actually got this manual focus. Again, just like other typical thermals, where you'll have to actually twist this in order to get a nice clear image depending on how far away you're looking at something. With this one, the Winchester one, I feel like personally, if you're doing a lot of hunting and long range stuff, I think this one, the Winchester one, is going to be a lot better suited for you than the DNT Hydra. Not that you can't use the Hydra HS325, but I do think that it's a little bit more of like your first time thermal for those that are thinking about getting into thermal for the first time. It's a good option for that. And before I continue, just so you know, as far as distances go, out here at my range, I only have about 120 yards cleared out, so it's not exactly going to be the best example for the long distance censoring of thermal capabilities that you can expect here. So again, just doing with what I have here and just giving my honest impressions based on my experience, how it turns out. All right, so as far as the actual quality of the Winchester thermal versus the DNT Hydra, they both use a lot of the same specs and quality sensors and all that good stuff, but there are some differences that I want to go over. The first thing I want to talk about is the quality of the actual thermal sensor. I had an issue, and you might see it in some of the footage already, where this one kind of had what basically looked like a bunch of dead pixels. There's like a bunch of white spots and stuff. In fact, if I actually zoom in, you can see the spots actually zoom in and get bigger as well. So I don't know if it's just this particular Winchester thermal I've got here, but there was a lot of issues with that pixely dead white spot pixels, or whatever you want to call it, going on with this one. This one has its own issues, the Hydra. It's got its own sort of set of issues where sometimes I'll see these lines develop on the actual screen. It appears when I record footage as well, but those will go away if I just turn it off and turn it back on or nuke the thermal sensor, which is another thing that's interesting about the Winchester one. You actually cannot nuke it, or at least I don't think you can. And you'll see that when I was recording this footage, the Winchester never does that refreshing thing where it has to reset itself like you typically see with most thermals. I don't know if that's a new feature with theirs or if there's something else going on, or maybe it just does it so efficiently that you can't even tell. I don't know. But that is one thing that could be a benefit to you if you don't really like that effect when it happens. Other than like the dead pixels going on, this one actually is better quality. You guys tell me. It may look differently from your end seeing the recorded footage, but at least from what I could tell, does a pretty good job. The Winchester does a really good job with giving you lots of different like shades of grays and whites and all that good stuff. Plus, of course, you can do different colors. And the outline mode is actually surprisingly very interesting as well. Now, is that outline mode going to be the most useful thing for you? Maybe not. But it is interesting that they have that feature in there as well. I could probably tweak the DNT to have a little bit better contrast, or vice versa with the Winchester, but I just kind of left them like by default as they were. One thing I would definitely take note though that really stands out to me about the Winchester over the DNT Hydra HS325 is the simple fact that you can turn off the reticle with the Winchester and still be able to zoom in. So if you wanted to use this as like a clip-on, you totally could without too much difficulty. Compare that to the DNT Hydra HS325, and they did explain to me, the company that sent this one out to me, that the Hydra essentially, once you put in clip-on mode, you're expected to use your mechanical magnification on your scope. And meaning you can only really magnify up to 4x. I feel like having to rely on the mechanical zoom of your scope versus the screen that you should be able to do, it really limits you. It limits your ability to really get in there and I guess get a better picture of what you're looking at. So good on Winchester that they actually allow you to zoom in there with it being in sort of a clip-on mode. On top of that, the Winchester one has a whole suite of ballistic calculations that you can do in there. So you can really fine tune this thing out based on temperature and altitude and bullet grain and all kinds of stuff to give you an idea of where your impact is actually going to be. That kind of stuff is missing. You have your basic bullet drop compensator reticles on here, but nothing to actually make those calculations like you do with this, including being able to actually predict where that bullet is going to be and where you need to set your point of impact. It's impressive with how much you actually get with this Winchester. On top of that, you've got your little pick rail here, this little guy right there that allows you to put your lasers or a little RMR red dot or something on there so that in case the batteries ever die, you will have some sort of backup, or maybe you're using this in a different application that you would actually benefit from having a laser. I don't know, you tell me. The fact that it's an option there to mount something else is very nice. With the DNT Hydra, not that it's impossible, but there's no obvious pick rail in here. I'm sure you could probably make something to work, like a 45-degree offsite, but right out of the box there is not anything here to actually mount anything to this optic. All right, so the bottom line is, which of these would I actually buy? Would I buy the Winchester HSX 384 or would I buy the DNT Hydra HS325? Obviously, they sent this out to me. DNT had sent this out to me. I did a review of theirs as well. This one was, at the time, the best thermal I'd ever seen for the price. And honestly, for the price, I think that's still true. I think that this one beats the Hydra. Under the condition, the screen and the actual sensor there is not a recurring thing. All the extra bells and whistles and features that you get right out of the box built inside. Do I think that those little white pixel spec things are a deal breaker? Absolutely not. I think honestly, if you're really using this, you're probably not going to even really notice it. But I did want you to be aware of what I saw looking through mine, and it could be that's just like a standard thing that sometimes happens with thermals. That's just how it is. I don't know. Again, I've only reviewed 3 thermals and only tried 3 thermals my entire life. Could be on me that I'm just inexperienced and don't realize that's just something that sometimes goes with the territory. Guys, that's going to wrap today. If you want this kind of content, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. What do you think about the Winchester Optics THSX 384? I'd love to hear from you. We will see you next time.